Lies. We all do it. But can you lie when it comes to selling a home? It's the Real Estate Show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name's Rick Naples, the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. Lying. Can you lie? Should you lie? Do you lie? Well, that's an interesting thought. You know, lies are part of our everyday life. We all do it. We don't mean to. But sometimes you're in a situation where you have to tell a little fib or stretch the truth just a little bit. You know, some of my favorite ones are when someone asks you, how much do you weigh? You might lie a little bit. I have several friends that if they're asked their age, they may shade off, 1 or 2 years. Or my favorite one when it comes to the real estate is when you ask someone, did you read the contract? Oh yeah, I read it, when they really have not. So it is maybe intentional or not intentional, but when it comes to the real estate transaction, you don't want to lie because you'll get caught. There's so many checks and balances through the real estate transaction that you can't really get away with much, if anything at all. I recently did a show here about the property disclosure, the seller's property disclosure report. And that's the form, as I've said, that the seller fills out that conveys information about the property to the buyer. And there's a few questions on that form that might, with good intentions involved, cause a seller to tell a little bit of a white lie or maybe a fib. And to illustrate that, let's say, for instance, there's a question about water. Do you get water in the basement? Well, maybe you own a home where water in the basement is very, very rare. Maybe during a very unusual heavy downpour or a big storm, you might get a little bit of puddling. But most of the time, you don't see any water in the basement. So when it comes to that question, you may answer no. Well, here's what the problem is. What if you end up selling your house and you close your house and then there happens to be a big storm and all of a sudden the basement gets water? The buyer could feel that you lied to them and they may be looking for some kind of reimbursement. They could file a lawsuit. One of the other sections that's in there, it asks a question about the furnace. You know, does the furnace work? Well, let's say you had a problem with that particular furnace and it was a costly repair. And you really don't want to share that with a potential buyer of the home. For whatever reason, you feel maybe that the buyer might not want to buy the home if they feel the furnace is going to break any second. Wrong. You want to disclose that and provide the paperwork. And in our business, one of the most common lies that we run into, sellers telling buyers, or even telling the realtors, when they've done a remodeling job. Have you pulled the permits? Did you have a permit on file to do this work? Oh yeah, sure, we did that. Maybe not, and again, that could cause problems. Let's take a look at this presentation that I put together. It talks about potential lies that a seller might unintentionally or maybe intentionally tell. That presentation talked about some of the lies that a seller might be tempted to use. But again, as I'm saying, you don't want to lie. Honesty is the best policy when it comes to selling a home. You want to be very truthful. You want the buyer's expectations to be what they want to get as far as the home is concerned. So tell them everything. Now, I don't want to be unfair to the sellers because buyers also can lie. Buyers sometimes will spin all kinds of tales in order to try to get themselves a mortgage on a house they wish to buy, or in order to try to get the seller to pick them if it's a multiple offer deal. I've had situations where, a buyer will write a letter to the seller to go along with the offering agreement, and the letter's not exactly truthful. It's just trying to maybe convince the seller that they would be the right person to buy that particular home. So it's embellished a little bit, or the truth is stretched a little bit as to why they want that particular home. And then there are other situations where a buyer may say to a seller that they're looking to purchase the home because this is the home they want to live in. Well, really, they're looking to buy the home, make some changes, and flip it on the market. But they feel that the seller might be more agreeable to sell the home to them if they feel that that person is going to actually live in the home as opposed to just turn it into an investment. So there's a number of different things that can happen. Let's take a look at the presentation that I put together that talks about the potential buyer lies. We're talking here on the Real Estate Show about lies and how they're part of our life and how a lot of us don't mean to lie. We try not to lie, but sometimes you're in a situation where you will tell a little bit of a white lie. You might stretch the truth a little bit. I mean, sometimes you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, so maybe you might, in the idea or with the meaning of not hurting their feelings, tell a little bit of a white lie. I love it when people are asked, how do you feel or how are you doing? And maybe they have a number of different things that are challenges going on in their life, but they always answer with a smile, I'm fine, I'm doing well. Is it a lie? Maybe. Is it a serious lie? Maybe. Depends. But we all do it, obviously. There's nobody that I know of that can go through life without telling a lie at one time. But when it comes to the real estate transaction, there are lots of checks and balances. And when it comes to the realtor is held by a code of ethics through the National Association of Realtors. They are not supposed to, and most do not lie. When you lie, you get caught in it, it can cause a number of different problems, and one lie can lead to another lie. I put together this presentation to look at sometimes what some of the white lies or the little fibs that might be used when you're in a conversation where the buyer is talking directly to the seller and the seller asks the buyer a direct question. Here's kind of the way that could be answered. And on the flip side, if the seller is asked a question by the buyer, for instance, why are you selling the house? Let's take a look. Liar, liar, pants on fire, as the old saying goes. You don't want to lie when it comes to making a real estate transaction. You also do not want to lie when you're going to work with a realtor. Now, I know there's a lot of things that some people want to hold close to their hearts, they want to keep private. But you know, the more forthcoming you are about what your wants are, what your needs are, what your specific situation is, to the realtor, the better the realtor can help you in achieving that goal in getting a home. Now, you also can't lie to the mortgage officer. You know, I've had people that go through what's called the pre-qualification questionnaire, and they kind of stretch the truth a little bit. My credit's good, I make XYZ amount of dollars per year, I've been on the job, blah, 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 so many years. Then when it comes time for that pre-qualification to turn into a pre-approval and things are actually investigated, it turns out, oh no, they haven't been on the job 2 years. They've only been on the job 1.5 years. And no, they don't make $50,000 a year. The most they make is $44,000 a year. And so on and so forth. That can change everything when it comes to getting a mortgage. So you want to be as honest as you possibly can. Now, let's get back to the property disclosure. The seller's property disclosure report, when the seller is filling that out, the realtor advises them that they have to answer as best they can. Be truthful, even be a little bit more than truthful. Try to be as detailed as possible. There are questions that you don't know, so you can honestly answer them as, I don't know, unknown. and some questions that don't apply to that particular property. Those are not lies. You're being truthful. You're answering those the way that you can. But those questions that are asked that are looking for some details, you want to make sure you provide those details as best that you can. Let's take a look at this, and I'll be back with the real estate mailbag. This is the part of the show I call the Real Estate Mailbag. My opportunity to address questions sent to us here at the Real Estate Show, or sometimes that just come up in conversation. You know, I'm talking about lies, and I got an interesting email that said, basically, to kind of put it together, the person was feeling guilty because they had lied. Their lie was the amount of money that they had available to put down on the home. You know you're going to need a certain amount of money in order to make your transaction happen, and you don't have it, let the mortgage officer know you don't have it, but here's where you're going to get it from. So again, in all things, honesty is the best policy. My name's Rick Naples, and this has been the Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.